to Angel's Table. Today joining me are Denise Graham and a very good friend of mine, Teri Racey. Teri is a physician's assistant, a health consultant, and author. I invited Teri to the table today because she and I have worked together for many years, and she's brought me through some really rough times. And one of the things that we have discussed in some of our sessions is soul growth. And so I thought that you can share your insights on that and discuss it. And if you'd actually first like to tell a little bit more about what your process is, that might be helpful too for the audience.
Okay. Thank you, and I'm delighted to be here.
So glad you're here.
Thanks. Well, my process is about taking obstacles, supporting the removal of obstacles that keep people from expressing their joy and their connection to each other, to their own mind, body, and spirit, and to the world around them. Mm-hmm. So I do that in various ways.
Right. Okay. So we've discussed soul growth, and I'm going to explain what I think it is, and you can share if I'm not quite on target with it. But through, a lot of the time things that we've discussed is, been when I've been in tumultuous states of my life, and, times it's always been a process of understanding not my life, but other people's life or other people's behavior or patterns in a life where you keep seeing the same people or the same types of scenarios in your life. And I think you brought to my attention once that we go through all these things in an effort to grow our soul, so that the obstacles are there for us to learn and grow from. Am I getting it right? Am I wrong?
Well, there are many ways of looking at it, and there are no wrong ways of looking at it. My own particular synthesis of it is to sort of make an analogy to a classroom. And I believe that we sit down with the divine mind before we incarnate, and we are interested in a particular course of study that perhaps we want to discuss or understand, power, voice, for example. And so we would create a skeletal structure of family of origin, culture of origin, religion of origin, a particular father and mother that would help us study all aspects of that area we are interested in exploring. And in the context of that, we have the opportunity to learn, to teach, and to express our talents, and to help other people in doing the same. I see soul growth not as a lack that's being conquered, but an expansion in consciousness, a growing understanding rather than correcting an issue. Mm-hmm. That we know the universe is expanding.
Right.
It's constantly expanding. And as an integral part of the universe, we also expand. So as we look at a certain area and it's perplexing to us, confusing to us, or even very interesting to us, we have the opportunity to incarnate as spiritual beings, to incarnate and to experience all aspects of it, the highs, the lows, the in-betweens. And the suffering that naturally occurs under those circumstances occurs whenever we struggle with something that we don't yet grasp and we have yet to master. Mm-hmm. So there is an inherent struggle. And we are struggling along with people that are in that same learning curve of something that they have chosen to learn. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that there is punishment for wrongdoing.
Oh, right.
But I believe that if we end up studying the spectrum of something, so if you're studying, for example, voice, then you would have experiences that would allow you to understand what it feels like to be voiceless, and experiences that it feels in which you understand what it feels like to be a bully, to have
So when you say
too much
voiceless,
voice.
right, when you say voiceless, you mean that you have a hard time speaking up for yourself, or
In all forms of expression. I mean,
Right.
it's not just words, but in your ability to express your physical gifts, as well. How do you express your unique nature in the context of your culture, family, religion?
Right. One of the things that has come up in some of our discussions in reference to that is that when you are working through some of your things, you're also helping others work through their things. So some of the conflicts come about because they're working through something and you're working through something, and you're on a path together to in some way help each other through those things, whether you see it or not. You may see it only as conflict. You're in this situation and you see it only as conflict, but hopefully, ultimately, you've both learned and grown from whatever the struggle was, and on your path and your soul growth. Yes, am I?
I agree. I think that's really an important consideration. And the thing that helps me most in my own individual path and to explore my purposes, is to stop and listen when I'm feeling pain, when I'm feeling sadness or anger or feelings of grief or loss. It's easy to just joyfully dance when everything's going well, but when you're experiencing unpleasant emotions, it stops you in your tracks. And you can either project your anger out at other people and say, well, it's their fault. If they were okay, then I would be fine. Or you can say, there's something important here for me, because the universe is getting my attention. So I have the opportunity to be mindful, be reflective, and see what's my dance here.
Right.
What is the piece that I'm bringing to this picture? So that in doing so, you understand yourself and your world better. And you also can move beyond the limitation that situation brought to your attention.
It's interesting. Do you have any? You're pondering this.
I'm thinking about it. It's, one of the things that I'm not exactly sure how to express it best. Sadhguru would say things like, he says a lot of stuff, but one thing that really stood out for me is that there were certain types of situations that would always cause me to respond in a way that wasn't okay with me, or I would feel I don't like to be around this kind of person, or I don't want to be in this situation, or things like that. But it seemed like I kept finding myself in those situations. And he talks about how you're going to continue until you learn what you need to learn from that.
I'm sorry, who?
My guru, Sadhguru.
Oh, your guru. Okay.
And when you learn what you need to learn from that situation, then suddenly you find one or two things. Either you're not confronted with those people, or you don't see them in that way anymore. And so it doesn't have the same effect on you. And it's like it's mindfulness in a way, because you're looking at how you respond to it, and that growth that you need to achieve before you can move past that. And it was funny because this type of person that made me uncomfortable previously, every time I was volunteering, it would be that person or someone just like that person that kept running into them, until I finally or certain tasks that I didn't like to do. And when I go and on the roster now, I never told anybody that I don't like to do this, but suddenly that would be the group I was assigned to work on this particular thing. And I was like, why does this keep on happening? Until it didn't bother me anymore. And then suddenly it wasn't happening anymore.
Yeah.
And so, so I guess I'm kind of thinking that is similar to what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Very much so. And actually, Teri was just fabulous. Where I started from is really kind of embarrassing because Teri has brought me so far. One of the things that I remember Teri saying to me that I remember you when I would come in and talk about, when someone was going through the stuff of being bullied, and a lot of the moms were involved, which was kind of not directly, just what I would, I was always like, oh, if I saw this happening, I'm, be jumping in and, doing something, and say that that's not what's going to happen. First of all, you can't expect people to do things like you do. And then she said, and then the other thing, I got in and said, she said, you got to stop responding. Well, I came in one day, I said, I stopped responding and it's still happening. And it was really great. What you said was, you have to stop responding internally. Oh, well, that's a whole lot more work. Like, well, now I have to start over because I really thought I'd come so far, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, good heavens, I haven't learned anything, have I? So it was kind of a really great lesson that it's really, I guess, and almost like you draw to you that which you're uncomfortable with until you learn how to work through it.
Exactly.
And
Absolutely, and that gets to the physics of it. Like attracts like. And we have in us cellular memory. We have DNA emotion. We have emotional DNA that comes with us to this life experience. So when you talk about the principle of physics, like attracts like, then if someone has a gift to offer you, say you are feeling voiceless and they are a bully, then you would be attracted to each other in order to play out that until one of you releases that way of being. The bully stops being a bully, no longer attracts people who need to be bullied. The one who's being bullied, when they stop allowing themselves, either consciously or unconsciously, to participate by not standing in their power and speaking their truth, then bullies don't come around anymore. I think it's a magnificent system because it's, we're energetically programmed to attract the very curriculum that we have chosen for our experience. And when we begin to realize that, we can quickly say, oh, you're here to show me, the opposite perspective that is going to help me unwrap this gift within that will allow me to have full expression and not just stop being bullied, but understand the spectrum of bullying versus voicelessness, powerlessness, so that I can take the middle way in my relationships with other people and provide an example for them to do the same.
I know this involves everything. Respect. I mean, we keep going back to the bullying, and respect kind of goes along with the bullying, but there are just so many things. And one of the things is everything. I come up with ideas because of what I see going on Facebook and what people post, and so much of it, and a lot more is young people, because young people seem to struggle with relationships more or differently. And one of the things they'll say, why does this keep happening to me? Why do I always meet these people? Why? And I'm always saying that, it's like, well, I know now. I didn't 10 years ago, but now I get it. Now I understand that, really, in a way, the power is within you to change all these situations, to learn from the situation and grow, and then hopefully even help the other person grow and help, whether they realize it or not, and they can still walk away from you being mad and think, I don't ever want to be around you again. but to some extent you still had to help them on their path anyway. So,
And that's what my book is about, the Master of the Storm.
this is great.
And the workbook for Master of the Storm in the journal.
I don't know if you want to zoom in on this or wait till the end, but okay, wait till the end, but yeah.
It's the idea that these challenges are like storms. I used to have serial tornado dreams, and they were really informative, and they helped me. Actually, the serial dreams are in the book, and they talk about the stages of facing a challenge. So at first, and I drew pictures in there too, so they're illustrations. At first, you're sitting at a distance from the storm. Maybe you're seeing your parents or your teachers or your religious leaders or adults somewhere participating in power struggles and behaviors that are familiar. And you are affected by it. You feel anxious as a result of it, but you're not in the eye of the storm. But as you grow up, you get closer and closer to direct interaction with the tornadic winds, and eventually you get caught up in them. And in your first stage where you're, just beginning to see that, oh, this is the Oz I landed in, that you have an opportunity to collect some wisdom, like the Tin Man and the Scarecrow and the Lion, to help get you, to some support to manage the storm that you eventually get to. And the tools are mindfulness and the meditation to help you get focused and centered, become a good observer of things, get custody of your consciousness so that your emotions don't carry you someplace you don't want to go.
Right.
Sort of thing.
We both meditate, and it's really an interesting thing how many people I will say meditation is such a great way to center yourself when you're in a difficult situation. And so many people say, oh my gosh, I can't sit still that long. And actually, that's another thing. You have this amazing guided meditation that helps work through that, because I think your talking is so beautiful and is relaxing anyway, but you help the person focus inward and breathing. And I really recommend it for anybody, any kind of guided meditation when you're first starting, because so many people have a hard time sitting still. I still have, when I'm really in a frazzled state sometimes, and I really need to meditate, sit down and do the meditation and think, okay, this isn't working. Got to go to the CD because I know that's going to get me where I need to go. But it's amazing how much you can actually, by doing these meditations, really kind of get yourself to a place where you can at least think clearly, so that sometimes when you're in the situation that you're in, when you're in the eye of the storm, that it can help you balance a little bit and not be so frazzled.
Think in a balanced way on your feet. So here's what I'm faced with. When I used to teach meditation, I have for many, many years, and when I was in clinical practice as a PA, people would come in, they'd have surgery, surgery was pending, or an MRI, and or another test that they were really afraid of. Using the breathing techniques, the simple breathing techniques that are part of mindfulness, made an amazing difference for them by their own account. It's a very simple thing. You've always got your breath with you, right?
Right.
And most of us are skilled enough and capable of, just a slow, deep breath, and that's all that's necessary. A lot of people think that meditation requires you to clear your mind.
Right.
And it's not a success unless you've done so. But it's not necessary to clear your mind at all. And the success, your success is basically being able to focus and center on one thing. If you were able to focus and center on one thing, you've cleared away 2/3 of your stress. Because you're not thinking about the future and you're not thinking about the past. So all you've got is the present. So in that, you've already cut off 2/3.
Right.
And then when you're in the present moment, you're also in the flow of universal wisdom. Some people call that wisdom God, some people call that wisdom any number of things. But labeling is always insufficient. But nevertheless, when you're in the moment, you are in the flow. And whatever form of meditation you use is a discipline to get you there. And then once you're there, it's its own reward.
Right, right. One thing that I really like to bring up about soul growth or mindfulness, however we want to really refer to this, is, a lot of times, like I had just mentioned, how people will bring up how this keeps happening to me, I keep attracting the same people, and one of the things that we've discussed is perspective, that everybody has perspective and everybody's perspective is different. And I know for me that it really helped a lot in some of the situations I've been in, that even if I felt like I was incredibly right, that I was right and everybody else was wrong, once I started seeing what their perspective in the situation might have been, that also helped me to at least change my outlook on a situation. So it was helping me to understand that we could not all come to the same, thought process, because we all have different frames of reference, different lives, different, even within a family, even though we all grew up together, we can still all have different perspectives, based on what might have been going on in your parents' life at the time, just different things that go on in life. And it really helped me to understand that we all have a part in every situation. It's not just the other person mistreating us, it's our reactions to this, and not just outward reaction, but internal reaction. And
if you were to ask, if you would go to the world's villains and ask them what they don't think they're a villain.
Yeah,
They
right.
think that they're doing the right thing. It's the right thing from their perspective.
Right.
And so, sometimes expecting people to understand, they're not necessarily capable of it, but you can, your understanding of it makes it a lot easier to deal with.
Right. Well, it's also interesting when someone says, "I'm a really nice person. I don't know why people treat me like this," and now I know. I might even have been one of those people one time. Now, yeah, I can rub people the wrong way. I know I can. Yeah. So
human nature.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
And if somebody wants pancakes for breakfast and you're insisting that they have eggs for breakfast, there's going to be a conflict, even if you're giving them eggs is a healthier option than the pancakes. They're going to be mad at you for all kinds of reasons about those pancakes, because
you knew I wanted pancakes. What do you ask for?
But I was trying to be nice to you. Yeah, but it wasn't very nice because this is what I want. Please let me have
Right.
it.
That's your version of nice.
Right, exactly. That's your version of nice.
Well, I like that you were talking earlier about the whole idea of being right. Like I know I'm right, but nobody else will agree. And I or maybe not enough people will agree. I like the idea of just saying you are right, but you're right for you. This is your version of right, and it's 100% your version of right. But you live in a world where everybody else feels that way also.
Right.
So the only way to respectfully commune is to say, okay, we've got all these people feeling differently and being right, and where is the mid-ground that we can all feel okay about? Because we've chosen to be in community. And we can be an island of righteousness and rightfulness and
That gets
singularity.
so far.
Yeah, but if we want to, if we make a commitment to be in community for the higher function or enjoyment of all, then we recognize the singular rightness and the desire to find common ground.
But one of the things that I realized, especially with politics, how much people's idea of being right and even if you say things, you have to be really, careful about how you say anything because people will get really upset. And somebody had posted something, and I don't even remember what it was. I think it was something about Donald Trump, and it was something like, would you delete if blah, blah, blah. And somebody put in the comments, delete. And I just liked their comment that delete. And it was one of those things where I wasn't saying that what you did was wrong. What I was saying is I would delete it if it was on my Facebook page. If I was in charge of this, I would take it down because I wouldn't want this particular thing on there because I didn't think it was very nice. And I didn't realize that the person who put the post could see that I'd liked this person's comment. And she was a little bit upset, and I was like, oh, I can see why you were upset by that. But I didn't really mean it that way. And so it was sort of a realization that, in her mind, that this is a very acceptable post, and I, to some extent, was saying, well, this isn't right, and I would not do this. So I sort of had to backtrack and say, I apologize, I didn't mean to offend you in any way. I was just saying that you posed a question, so I was, in my mind, answering it, and it wasn't that I was saying you were wrong, but in her mind, that's what I was saying. It was like...
But that was okay, too, because we don't have to agree.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
But I hide posts from my page all the time that I think are offensive.
Yeah.
And not necessarily, and they may not offend me, but I know that they would offend some of my friends, for instance, and I might just hide it. And I don't give it a second thought because it's my Facebook page. So it's like,
you get to be the gatekeeper.
yeah, I can like, what's on my page, I'm like,
Yeah.
hide, or delete or whatever. And I don't, and I don't apologize.
Yeah,
for
but
that.
I do to some extent. I don't want to, I try to not, I go
Okay.
back and forth. I seem to vacillate between what I really think and not wanting to offend anybody because everybody's entitled to however they feel, and I'm not going to change anybody's opinions, and they're not going to change mine, especially not if they're, presenting anger. But it is an interesting thing about the right and wrong and perspective, and when you bring, and if you bring to the table that you're immediately angry about something, or that you're going to be right and you're going to make sure everybody knows that you're right. If everybody comes to the table that same way, it's really hard to come to a balance. And
Yeah, it's another layer of conflict, and
Yeah.
it just. I have a brother-in-law who shares significantly different political views than I do, and I try not to post anything of my personal opinions, of which I have many, on Facebook because what's the point?
yeah, right.
But anyway, he did that quite a bit, and I would get irritated by it, and sometimes get all up in my irritation. I wouldn't say anything to him. I wouldn't post anything, but nevertheless, it made me feel differently about him. And so I decided to unfriend him. And I didn't know that he knew that I did that because I hadn't been commenting or liking him anyway. So we're at a family party, and he says, "So you unliked me?" And I said, "Oh, I didn't know you knew that." And he said, "Yeah, you did." And he said, "Why'd you do that?" Which is kind of bold anyway,
Yeah.
But I'm glad he said it because I said, I want to love you, and that stuff just creates barriers between us, and I just don't want to hear it.
And
How did you, I'm curious, how did you respond to it?
Oh, very well.
Because because you spoke about it honestly,
Yeah.
and you talked about it in terms of your relationship, and so
Yeah.
I think that's
Well,
a good way of handling it.
yeah, it is. But it's an interesting thing because a lot of times that is what happens. Like I have a couple friends who are just like that. Their opinions are completely opposite of mine, and the way they post stuff, it's like it gets me in the gut. It's like, oh my gosh. And then I realized that was me reacting to something. It's like, you can think whatever you want, and I choose to either let this really affect me or not let it affect me. And it's like, because there's no way that we're ever going to agree on this anyway. I can talk to one blue in the face and you'll never see my perspective.
Right.
So what I do is, especially if I can tell immediately that's political, I just scroll on past, because I don't want to eliminate the relationship stuff. Like if they're posting family stuff or things like that. I do want to see that. So,
Yeah.
but for me, I really do like the idea that if we look at whatever we're doing in life as growing our soul and being stronger in our soul, that it can make some of the traumas a little more bearable in life. That it's like, oh, okay, I realize I'm growing my soul. I'm prepping myself for whatever comes next. And
So I will be wiser and stronger as I address it.
yes.
Yeah.
And if you don't want, I think we talked about this the last show, if you don't want someone to know that you've unfriended them, you can just click hide posts from this person, and you'll still show up as their friend on their page.
Didn't know that.
You're never going to see their posts again.
Yeah, because think about that energetically. That's a better way of doing it too. I mean,
It is.
yeah.
But on the other hand, that communication.
It opened up a discussion that
We have a
communication.
different relationship. He even said to me, he laughed and he said, well, don't friend me again until after the election.
Right?
But I think it just washed away all this stuff. I mean, we have to find a way to, the idea of Facebook, I think it's a wonderful metaphor for what we decide to pay attention to in our head.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's all kinds of data coming in all the time, and it's distressing.
Mm-hmm.
It really is
It
distressing.
I mean, think about that what we give attention to.
Yes.
And so if you're constantly giving attention to the negative stuff, you're really going to always be in a negative state.
And it's out there all the time.
I originally joined Facebook because after I had gone to the ashram in India, it was a way to keep in touch with people that I met there, because there were people from all over the world.
Yeah.
And that was the only reason I had said, oh, I don't want a Facebook account. That's the only reason that I had originally gotten a Facebook account. Well, of course, after that, acting jobs and all kinds of things that you find out only on Facebook, and events and things like that. And so now I'm glad, and I love being able to see photos, and
Me too.
my daughter-in-law posts photos of my grandkids or something, that she forgets to send me sometimes. So it's kind of fun to be able to have that access that I want to have.
I agree. I mean, I don't really want to keep discussing the Facebook thing, but I do think there's a lot of good with it, because you do have all that. That's actually why I got started as well. I had friends that I had met in LA, and they lived all over the country, because we met at a parent camp, and it was the most amazing experience, because it was instantaneous that this group connected, and it was like we were drawn to this place to meet each other. And so they keep calling and saying, you need to get on Facebook, because we're having conversations without you. And so I finally got on, and it was great, and I loved it for that reason. And then I realized how much more there was to it. I was like, okay, well, that part I don't really like it. So I tried, and I do go back and forth, because you get drawn into stuff, and then you think, okay, backtrack, because that's not really what I want to do here. So, but anyway, well, thank you so much for joining us, and
My
I
pleasure.
hope that we can have helped somebody today with this discussion about soul growth. Oh, the one thing I do at the end, we'll post the information that Teri has this wonderful meditation CD that it will transform you, and it's my favorite thing. And then her book, which is called Master of the Storm, which is also it's a little bit of a workbook too. To help
The
you
second
through
one is the work.
Oh, the second one. Okay, so they come together. It's incredible, and so we will put all that information on at the end of this. And do you want to give your email address or anything for anybody who might want to?
Certainly, anybody who has any questions.
We can put that at the end too. So.
Sure.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's really fun.
Thank you.